Welcome back everyone to the BMA Bathroom Zone. I'm delighted in this afternoon session to be joined by George Clarke, who many of you will know as a renowned architect, TV presenter and writer. George was born in Sunderland in the 1970s, grew up with a passion for design and architecture, and after attending the University of Newcastle, he received a degree in architecture in 1995. After graduation, George worked for a number of architecture firms, and in 1998 founded his own company, George Clarke and Partners, which quickly gained a reputation for innovative design. George is perhaps best known for his TV work. First rose to prominence with the Channel 4 show Build a New Life in the Country.
Channel 5.
That's Channel 5, yeah,
sorry, Channel 5.
That's
I was there for 3 years.
Probably slanderous, isn't it?
That's right. To be honest, they still repeat it now, and I look like 20-something years younger.
He later definitely on Channel 4, The Restoration Man, and my personal favourite, George Clarke's Amazing Spaces, which really did showcase that passion for architecture that you have. In 2014, George was awarded an honorary doctorate from Birmingham City University, just down the road, and has also been recognised by REBA and the Royal Television Society. So, a strong advocate for eco-friendly design, a strong advocate for sustainability in the built environment. George, going back to those earliest days in Sunderland, what was it that inspired you into this field of work and into architecture?
Well, I was actually brought up in a new town, so I wasn't brought up in the centre of Sunderland. I was brought up in a kind of borough of Sunderland called Washington. Actually, the perfect timing, that's brilliant. I didn't even cue that. Washington was a kind of utopian vision. You know, there's a number of new towns built. You'll know about Milton Keynes and places like that. No one really talks about Washington, to be honest with you. We do get an invasion of Americans coming in every summer because George Washington's ancestors were born in my little town. So you get coach loads of Americans coming in, and they actually believe that George Washington lived there, which he never ever did. It was his ancestors from like 200 years before. So it's an old village, lots of mining villages around. It's a pit town, basically, coal mining town. And basically all of that land was developed over 8 years into a new town. So imagine getting some of what I think was some of the best designers, not just in this country, but from overseas. There was Danish architects, Swedish architects, German architects would come over to the UK to work on these quite innovative utopian visions for new towns across Britain. Because you think about it, it was a massive amount of work, huge amount of work. So you're building a town for 50,000 people, kind of like that. And my mum and dad moved there because they couldn't afford to be in Sunderland, to be honest with you, and Washington was seen as being the new green. I don't mean ecologically green, because we weren't talking about ecology back in the 1960s, but it was very beautifully landscaped, very affordable housing. This is my little town centre with some escalators. We were basically brought up in the building sites because it was still being built. And I didn't realise until I left home when I was like 18 to go to university, just how innovative it was. That's my mum's house, she still lives there now. And it might not look like much, but 4-bedroom house, really good design standards, really good space planning standards. The rooms were really, really well planned. All the buildings were kind of strung down courtyard squares. So you had 4-bedroom, 2-storey houses, 3-storey, 6-bedroom houses for extended families. And then you might be able to see just at the top there little bungalows. And a lot of elderly people lived in those bungalows, or people with disabilities lived in those bungalows because it was easy access. And that was all around what my mates would call George's Square. Because it was all courtyards, it was all pedestrianised. If I walked to school, I didn't cross a road. When I walked to school, which was about a mile away, I didn't cross a single road. Really good, well-designed highways, roads, landscaping, pedestrianised spaces. So I was brought up in what I thought was a brilliant piece of urban master planning.
Was it an early 15-minute city?
Yeah. I mean, if you made this town green, and I'm talking about now ecologically green, and retrofitted all the buildings, improved insulation standards, put solar panels on the roof, put SLC pumps on there, it would be your kind of utopian green village. You know, when Gordon Brown talked about building lots of eco towns, which he never did.
Yeah.
They were already kind of there in the 1960s. They just needed to be made greener.
So, what separates the utopian new towns like Washington from the other kind of rather dystopian, as it turns out, designs?
You're going to get me in trouble, aren't you?
What was different?
The 1960s brutalism failed because basically there was too much concrete. There was a lot of high-rise. It was all about living in the sky. It was seen as being the healthiest thing. 21 stories up. Look at the views you're going to have. Isn't it fantastic? To be honest with you, we like 2-3-story houses. We like our front gardens and our back gardens. You know, the Brits we just love that. It's why Victorian house types have been so successful. It's why people still love living in them. And we had this ridiculous kind of tranche of modern architects coming through saying people should live in the sky and cars should be at their lower levels, so city centres were destroyed. Birmingham city centre, the big problem with roads and flyovers.
Still figuring that out now, right?
Yeah, well, we had it in Newcastle. Like, even in Newcastle, they took down some beautiful old buildings on the other side of the town bridge and built elevated walkways for people to walk on. They had cars and lorries at a lower level, so it was all about deck access. That basically alienated us from the ground level. And it just didn't work. And so my estate was not brutalist at all. There was no high-rise buildings at all in my town. Not at all. The highest ones were 4 stories high, and they were maisonettes. So a 2-story house on the bottom, 2-story house on top, with a staircase at each end. That was it. So when people talk about kind of innovative utopian new towns, I'm like, I lived in one that was designed in the 1960s. If we did a 21st century version of that, it would be a massive game changer in Britain. Massive. I would much prefer to live there than on a lot of the new build housing estates that are being built now.
So it sounds like you've got a passion for that. Is what policy makers should be looking to do, do you think?
Yeah, well, and also without getting too heavy about it, it's about tenure and ownership. I lived in a council house. You know, Maggie comes in with right to buy, sells off all the council housing stock. We've now got the biggest housing crisis ever. Ever. We've literally sold off over 4 million council houses. Well, that's just been taken out of the system. So politicians now, particularly this government, they're just obsessed by home ownership. They want 100% home ownership. Fine, right? If everybody had 100% home ownership, I'd be chuffed a bit. Everybody would have a roof over their head. Brilliant. But we can't afford it. Houses are 8, 9, 10, 12 times the average income. So the house prices today are 7 times. This is the average, by the way, so I know this varies massively depending on where you live. It's 7.5 times your income, average income. Well, the banks will only lend you 4 times, so where does the other 3 times come from? And how are you going to save that up when you're in rented accommodation, paying private rent accommodation? We've got a whole generation of people stuck in private rent. You could get kicked out at any point, you could get rent increases at any time. It's really, really bad. We've got a whole generation of kids that might never own their own home. So I did a council house campaign. I'm still doing it. I'm still pushing it out. I mean, literally,
what's the response been like to that campaign?
But we had 270,000 people sign the petition. If you want to change.org and just put my name in, please sign the petition because I'm still pushing at that. I'm basically saying the government should build 100,000 council houses per year, every year for the next 30 years. If they do that, it'll only replenish the stock that we've already just lost in the last 30 years. But if we make green, really sustainable, very beautiful council housing and reform right to buy, there's no point building
right to buy but duty to build as well on the part of the local authorities.
I mean, there's absolutely no point in us building council houses. Councils can't afford to build houses that will then get sold off at a discount. You know, they're just going to lose out. I mean, if anything, it should be an asset for Britain. When we came up with the welfare state, which, let's be honest, the welfare state, one of the most amazing things that we ever came up with. It's like the envy of the world. It was all about good education, healthcare, and housing. That's it. We've actually got an amazing health service, right? They should be getting paid more, they should be looked after more. But like, when it comes to housing, you think about people like nurses, even cleaning staff that work in hospitals. Where are they living? Where's the affordable housing for people who are earning £18,000 a year, £20,000 a year, £21,000 a year. It just doesn't exist. So health, education, housing. Now for me they're all linked when it comes to housing. If you've got a decent roof over your head, your kids have got a chance of doing pretty well at school. They've got stability, they're not being moved around from rental property to rental property, they're in a decent school. That stability gives them everything. Right? If you've got a decent well-designed house, your health is going to be better. You are going to feel better. If you can afford it and you can pay your rent to the council, it's less stressful. So it's got real mental health benefits, it's got health and well-being benefits if you're living in a green ecological house. So for me, those things are amazing. Our NHS is brilliant, our education system is brilliant. I think what teachers do in this country is unbelievable under all the pressure that they're under. Housing, where's the state housing now? Where's the government building housing now? They're not. So it's basically been privatised. House builders building as many houses as possible, which are all for home ownership. I'm generalising, because housing associations out there doing amazing work, of course there are. There are some house builders out there building good housing estates with a decent affordable housing provision. But remember, there's a difference between affordable housing and social housing. You know, homes for social rent are cheaper than affordable housing is. So we need to build at scale, and we need to build up a housing stock that provides homes for people that are genuinely in need. Because there's people being made homeless by the minute. And you think about interest rates going up at the level that they are, you think about mortgages coming up for renewal, because there's been lots of people on fixed rate mortgages over the last 2-3 years, and you've got to renew them. That could be a frightening jump in monthly payments. You've got the cost of living crisis, fuel prices going up. The pressure on household income now is absolutely enormous, right? So if someone loses their home, where do they go? Where do they go? They go to temporary accommodation, which costs councils an absolute fortune. They get put in hotels, they get put in bed sits, yeah? And that costs the state a huge, huge amount of money. It ruins their lives, it ruins their kids' education. To bounce back from that is so difficult, I can't tell you. And all of this comes back to the nation having enough housing provision for everyone that's genuinely affordable. And that's why I keep banging the drum.
So, looking back to when you were really at the start of your career and through those really well-known architecture firms that you worked for, was it housing projects that you were most proud of?
I did no housing projects at university.
There's something ironic about that, isn't it?
It's ridiculous. So schools of architecture, well, I mean, it's a great education in terms of design, but I was designing galleries and skyscrapers and train stations and mad pie-in-the-sky projects. We didn't do housing. And when I started in practice, I worked for Terry Fowle. He's still alive today. He's in his 80s. Brilliant architect. I was working in Hong Kong. I designed an airport for him in South Korea. I was doing skyscrapers in London for him. I didn't do any housing. But when I set up my own practice, we just did housing. That's what we did. Yeah. That's my new caravan, by the way, in the Lake District for Amazing Spaces. Did you believe that? That's a static caravan. It's good. So I just put that.
So all of these guys here are involved in housing predominantly.
Yeah, okay.
What are the lessons that you took from that part of your career that could be applicable to these guys in the projects that they oversee?
That's a big question, that. For me, your home is the most important piece of architecture in your life. Architecture can sometimes feel like a kind of highbrow profession, can't it? I just think housing, it just needs to be good. It doesn't need to shout, it doesn't need to scream, it doesn't need to be a grand architectural statement. It just needs to be a really good, beautiful piece of design. It doesn't need to be too clever. I've designed some houses. I did some modular houses up in the northeast. We had a modular building factory. We don't have it anymore, unfortunately. That went in COVID. And we did these modular houses, and they were just really, really simple. Just nice rectangular houses, beautiful little kitchen, nice little dining area, lounge, beautiful staircase, 3 bedrooms upstairs, all efficiently planned, packed with insulation, solar panels, air source heat pumps. Fantastic. Lovely, cosy, beautiful places to live. Nice views out, There's glazing, lots of natural light coming in, healthy, happy
Built
homes.
around human beings.
It's all about people.
Yeah.
It's all about people at the end of the day. You know, one of the biggest challenges for me is kind of understanding my clients and designing a building that really works for them, you know. That's the biggest challenge.
So, you're an architect, successful architect. How do you go to presenting on the telly?
God, I'll try and give you the short story. I'll give you the very, very quick one. So I had my practice. I was teaching at 2 universities, teaching architecture. I was a visiting lecturer at Nottingham University, and I was a part-time member of staff at Newcastle University. The university asked me to write a book, because if I got a book published, that would get research funding for the university. They went, oh, you've got to do research. I'm like, I just want to teach the students. No, you've got to do research, Go and write a book. I went to a friend of mine who was a writer. I said, I've been asked to write a book. I've never written a book before in my life. I've got no idea how to do it. She got me a meeting on a Thursday afternoon. This is like 2005, 10 o'clock in the morning in Covent Garden with a lovely woman called Rosemary Schoolar, who was a literary agent. Chatted with her for half an hour, and she just said, look, you seem really passionate about what you do. Why don't you sign for us? I went, give me the contract, because I think her commission was like 12%, and I thought, well, 12% of now is now, it's because I've never done anything yet. So I just signed it, and that was the Thursday one. She called me on the Monday, and she said, have you ever thought about doing television? I was like, what? I said, hang on, I thought you were a literary agent. She said, well, I am, but I do broadcasting as well for a lot of my writers. So she looks after, you know, Simon Sharma, the historian. He does a lot of TV for the BBC and Netflix, but he's also an academic and a writer. And she said, so I cross over between the two. So I've just come off the phone to the channel, and they said, is there anybody new? She said, I've signed this architect called George Clarke. And they went, oh my God, we've been casting for 3 months for a new property series, haven't found anyone we like. Would you do a screen test? I said, absolutely no way. I just, you know, for me, when I was a kid, I played football, chased the girls, you know, I loved life. I couldn't do music, I couldn't do drama. If there was a school play, I'd want to be like the tree. Like, I didn't want to learn any lines. For me, it's like performing in any way, shape or form made my skin crawl. You probably find it hard to believe, but I was very shy when I was at school. If I'm honest, you can learn to be more confident and outgoing in this job. You have to be. And anyway, I said no to the screen test. She called me on the Tuesday and she said, what did you think about doing that screen test? And Rosemary, I said no yesterday. And she said, well, I'll put you in tomorrow for 10 o'clock. And I went, no, in way. And she said, just go and do it. She said, you've got nothing to lose. So it's an hour of your time. You might hate it, they might hate you. You might be rubbish. And I did the screen test the next morning and got the job.
And the rest is history.
Yeah.
So the book, was that Home Bible?
No, I never wrote the book that I was supposed to write for the university. I never did it. The Home Bible was, once I've been making TV for a few years, I just wanted to do a book on great homes, to be honest with you. It's a how-to book. I don't know if you've seen it. You can't actually get it now, I don't think. I think we've sold all the stock, because I wrote it in like 2009, 2010. Someone was trying to sell one the other day on eBay for 200 quid. I was like, it's not worth that. It's like a doorstop.
I think we've got eBay somewhere in the audience, actually. Ross is responsible.
I think it was
for
like 150 quid or something. Someone was trying to sell my book. It was only selling for 11 quid when it first came out. No, on a serious point, it's a how-to book about refurbishing your existing house, transforming your existing home. Most of my TV programs are about doing existing buildings. Restoration Man, it's all about converting, you know, unusual buildings, military, agricultural, industrial buildings into houses. Old house, new home, doing Victorian, Edwardian houses, 1930s bungalows, whatever. So, I mean, I've never done a new build house on TV. Never. If you think about all my shows, I've never done a new build house, ever, on television. But it's good, because Kevin does Grand Designs, that's all very new builds. Most successful show out there, really. I mean, it's been going for 23 years now. Kevin's been making that since 2000. You know, I used to watch that, and it was the one property show that I watched. I loved it. You know, Kevin's a good friend. So for him to be doing kind of new builds, grand designs, you know, high-end architecture, and for me to just be doing great conversions and refurbishments of old buildings is wonderful. You know?
But isn't retrofits where the big opportunities lie in terms of transforming?
Well, retrofit is the biggest challenge that we face in Britain when it comes to the built environment. We build 250,000 new houses a year.
On a good year?
On a good year. Yeah. That's 1% of the total housing stock that exists now. Like just 1%, that's it. So we've got, 25, 26, 27 million existing homes. Let's say 22 million of them were built pre-1990s building regs, 1990 building regs. Now 1990s building regs, you would just put little bits of insulation in and a bit of double glazing and that was it.
Yeah.
Right? So we've got like just over 20 million houses that were built pre-1990 building regs. That means we've got no insulation in there, single glazing, big chunky gas boilers. Those boilers have probably been in there for 15 years. We do this thing, don't we, that we just hang on to that gas boiler until it dies. You know, I mean, if you've had a gas boiler for 15 years, the components and the parts are not that efficient. It's probably literally burning gas and not giving you enough heat in your house. So the retrofit challenge for me is the biggest thing. How do we go into people's houses and affordably make them green? How do we do that? It's the right thing for us to do. We know it's the right thing. We all know that's the right thing, right? We want to make all of our existing buildings green. Everybody that lives in an existing building would love it to be green. They want it to be more comfortable and they want lower energy bills, right? It's an absolute no-brainer. Just the comfort factor of being in a well-insulated house is amazing. You know, absolutely amazing. But how the hell do we do it? How do we do it? How do we pay for it?
How do we go at scale as well from zero?
How do you actually pay for it and do it and make it happen for the majority of houses across the UK? It's a massive challenge. How can you go to someone now and say, I think you should get rid of your gas boiler and put in an air source heat pump? And they go, hang on a minute, I'm struggling to pay my mortgage and feed my kids. I've got massive electricity. And the people go, yeah, but you can get your gas bills down and get rid of your gas and you get your electric bill down and it's future-proof in your house. And they're like, yeah, no, but where am I going to find the £8,000 to do it? And they go, well, you've got the boiler upgrade scheme and you'll get a grant of 4,000 or 5,000 quid. Yeah, but where am I going to get the other £4,000 from? Do you know what I mean? And actually, the tragic thing is that the people who need that help most are the ones with the least money. The people who are really, really at the bottom of the ladder, living in cold, damp accommodation that really needs to be upgraded, do not have the capital funds to be able to do it. Housing associations are doing an amazing job. Honestly, I have to say, because they are holding their stock. It's a long-term investment for them. Councils, where they can, are doing an amazing job to upgrade their existing stock. They really, really are. It's probably the biggest part of the air source heat pump industry is housing associations, to be honest.
So there were some big questions that you raised there. What's the answer?
Look, the government have come up with scheme after scheme after scheme that haven't worked, right? And then some new bloody minister comes in and then changes the policy because they don't like it, right? There needs to be a 30, 40-year government strategy that actually works. We've had the Green Deal, that went. We've had all sorts of schemes. Boris announced one that lasted 4 months. You know, it's actually, excuse my swearing, but it's a fucking joke. It's literally a joke. The housing industry needs a proper 30 to 40 year long-term strategy that the Treasury know that can be funded, that allows people to access that fund, right, and makes it work, genuinely makes it work. And it should have cross-party buy-in, so that if I have a change of government, I think it should be legislation basically that's brought in the House of Commons, signed up for with cross-party support. Now, why would the Labour Party not say they want an amazing scheme to make houses green? Why would the Lib Dems say they don't want an amazing scheme that makes all buildings green? They wouldn't. So get cross-party buy-in and a proper 30-year agenda that's properly funded and priced, because it's for the benefit of the country. And we've made all these announcements about being net zero carbon by 2050. Hand on heart, we haven't got a chance. I hate to say it, I'm normally Mr. Cup half full, I'm Mr. Positive, I'm normally mega negative, unless I'm slagging the government off, right? We're not going to do it, because we're not moving fast enough. We're not being brave enough with policies and funding and money to make it happen. We're just not. We're doing all right. We're doing well in certain things like offshore, wind generation, we're doing amazingly well at. We are fantastic at that, right? There's certain things that are happening that are brilliant, absolutely brilliant. But when it comes to existing housing stock, and what's happening? Like genuinely, what's happening?
Judging by the exhibits here as well, certainly manufacturers in my sector, in the bathroom sector, are throwing, in money and investment at innovation to get greener. So that, industry's coming on the journey, but we need the policymakers there too.
Industry's ready for it.
Yeah.
Industry's geared up for it. We know how to do it without being arrogant. The industry really knows how to do it. You just walk around here and people do amazing green technology, amazing innovations in product development, lots of R&D. This wonderful product here, and I'm not just saying that because I've been paid to come here today, right? No, there really is. I walk around like in an absolute buzz for it. But how do we bring all of this together to really change 25 million or 20 plus million existing houses in Britain? How do we do it? How do we fund it?
It's tough, but we've got to start talking about it with policymakers, haven't we?
Yeah, but it takes brave, bold government. It takes industry to come together and really work together. Our industry has been quite fragmented, very fragmented. Quite often certain organisations won't talk to other ones, that won't talk to other ones. I think the industry's really got to come together and say, how are we going to do this? How are we really going to make it work? Every single organisation shouldn't just, your organisation shouldn't just be talking to these people. You should be talking to everybody, basically. RIBA, all the other organisations that are out there to make that change happen. And it needs a big bloody push from the industry to say to the government, let's do it. George Osborne and David Cameron announced that in 2016, right, every single new build house had to be net zero carbon, right? And they pulled it. The industry was gearing up for it for 6 years. 6 years we worked on that. 4 months before they pulled the plug. Why? There's lots of different reasons, but one of them was pushback from the industry. Because a lot of the big house builders went, no, if you do that, it's going to push up house prices, we're not going to be able to deliver, we're not going to make the numbers, please don't change anything, just let us carry on as we are. So the big house builders put pressure on government to turn that around. And the threat was, we're not going to build enough houses and the house prices are going to go up. Ministers, whoa! We don't want house prices going up on our watch. What? It's gone up like 10% a year. So that's bollocks in itself, right? That's absolute crap, right? But the ministers love numbers. They love numbers. They love standing up and go, we built 225,000 houses this year. Isn't that brilliant? Yeah, but what did we build? Where did we build it? Was it good enough? Did it go to the people that really needed it? Did it go to investors? Did it go to landlords who just want to rent them out? Did it go to overseas investors who are coming in and buying? I went to a development recently in Manchester. I'm really naughty. I go into the showrooms, when you go in and you're trying to sell everything off plan. And I go in and they all shit themselves when I walk in. Because they're like, oh my God, George has walked in. And I go in and I'll be like, and you can just get a feel and a sense for who they're selling to. All overseas investors. Nearly all overseas investors. And you just go, hang on, so you're building something like 3,500, 4,000 apartments on nearly a city centre site in Manchester, but there'll be not many people from Manchester living in them, and most of them will be rented out for big profits. We've got to change that.
Not how it should work.
Somehow we've got to regulate the system to get the balance right. What we've done is we've just made it a massive free market economy and gone, housing, go for it. Anybody can build one, anyone can sell one, anyone can develop one, anyone can rent one. Just anybody can do it, just go into it, and the government has stepped right back.
We're in the BMA bathroom zone today. I know time is...
No, I'm just worried about...
I want to ask you about bathrooms. So, in some of the projects that you've seen on TV, that you've worked on...
Someone recently said that I'm really good at designing bathrooms.
Well, tell me about
That's like one of the best compliments I've ever had. No, honestly, someone walked in and some houses that I did, they're like, God, you do bathrooms really well, don't you? I love them actually. For me, it's kitchens and bathrooms. They're the biggest challenge in any house. Like they really are. Like genuinely. If you think it's the one room where you've got the most trades, think about bedrooms and living rooms. Someone's put the floor down and plastered and everything else. So you go to a bathroom, you've got tiling, plumbing, electrics. Obviously, you've got lighting connected to the electrics. You've got all the products that are having to go in there. You've got mirrors that are being designed in. You've got towel rails going in there. Is that electric or is that a water system? What taps are you going to go for? It's amazing the amount of decisions that you've got to make to get a bathroom right. I love them.
So, what works then?
You haven't paid me to say that either, by the way. But I do genuinely love them. Well, it's good space planning for a start. Actually, just made me think of something. I wonder if I'm going to start up and do this actually. Let me pick my pack up. I was in Monmouth, right, on Monday, and I turned up at this hotel on Monday night. It was an old building, right, really old building, and it's hard to put in bathrooms in old buildings, especially when it's a hotel. You know, it's just not good enough for it. But every room needs a bathroom, doesn't it? So this bathroom, right, was about that wide from the M to the B there. No, maybe a little bit more. There was the bath there, so the door was here. You walked alongside the bath. Shower head with a shower curtain. I hate shower curtains, right? I mean, it's ridiculous. The idea for if you've got a proper shower screen, you can clean it, can't you? But if you got, I did this thing on the Home Show years ago where it was called George's Gripes, and I did one about shower curtains, and the film me getting naked. It's online, by the way. So I went up the shower, and I was just showing how a shower curtain just kind of sucks and sticks to you because of the difference in air pressure. And then how people leave the shower curtain in the bath water sometimes, and it gets that horrible like stained line. And the idea is that you pay 15 quid for your shower curtain and you change it every 6 months. And we never do because we're so stubborn. And they're just miserable and grim, I can't stand them. So bath on that size, walked in, shower curtain, can't stand that. Terrible shower head. Like literally I might as well have just taken a kind of, I don't know, squeezy bottle and just wash myself with it, right? There was no pressure whatsoever, but this is the best bit. So imagine at the end of that, where the shower head is and the taps, the toilet, right? The toilet, but next to the toilet was the sink in a little alcove. So I had to kneel in the toilet to wash my hands and have a shave. There was literally no room to get my legs between the toilet and the sink, otherwise I would have been like that with the wash basin there. But it was just, no, and in fairness, as I say, it was a building that was done in like 1800, and you know, it is hard to get them in, but you just look at it and think, bloody hell, all you had to do was kind of knock a hole in that wall, take a tiny little bit off the bedroom on the other side, and took the wash basin in there and just get it away from the loo.
So space planning, giving it a bit
of space planning is everything. Choosing the right products is obviously really, really important. I've seen so often where I've gone in and the sink just feels too small for the room. You think, why haven't I just got a bigger sink? Getting the right sink. Like how many times I've gone to a hotel, and we're talking about being ecological, right? And there's a trendy, this sink's like so trendy, it looks like the most minimal block of granite you've ever seen, right? And it's just got a little gentle slope on it, and it's got the little trough at the back, and my little spout that looks like it's come from a Buddhist temple or something, right? And then I'm like, well, one, where's the plug? Oh, there isn't one, right? And it's only like, at its deepest point, it's like that. So I can't run enough water to get water in it because there's no plug to even have a shave. So then you end up just running the tap. And I probably used, I don't know, 12 litres of water to have a shave. That's insane. That's just, so that for me is a really shit bit of design, right? Yeah. It's where someone just doesn't understand the practicalities. They just go, oh, it's really cool and trendy, let's have that. I can't stand stuff that doesn't function well. You know, it's obviously going to look beautiful and feel nice and be the right design. If it doesn't function properly, it's just crap. It's just shit. There's no excuse for it. And that's why I always say everything's about design, right? And people go, oh, you know, I'm not a designer, I'm I don't know, shower head engineer. I'm like, no, you're a designer. You're designing components, you're designing how it's going to work, you're looking at flow rates. You know, you are absolutely design. It's design. The person said that someone's designed this, someone's drawn it, and it functions and it works. Right? If you got the shape wrong, it wouldn't work. If that TV wasn't designed properly, it's just a piece of crap. Everything, from your trainers to your trousers to your top to your t-shirts to the bags you're carrying, it's all been designed by someone. All been designed. Everything.
So, in terms of design, can you think of any projects, particularly bathroom projects I'm interested in, but wider projects, that have stood out as just amazing and like the standout project? You've seen a lot, haven't you?
That's just unbelievably difficult, That's just so hard. Do you know, I'm not picking it as a standout project. The caravan that was just on there a few minutes ago. What I love about that It's got a really good shower room in there, by the way. Really, really good shower rooms with beautiful products, nicely tiled. It's actually stunning. I mean, you would never imagine that a shower room like that could exist in a caravan. What I loved about doing the caravan, and what I love about caravans generally, very cheap, very affordable, basically modular factory-made structures, really, so they should be built and made and engineered really well. Not all caravans are, by the way, so I'm not saying every caravan is brilliant. But it's 30 foot long, so it's 30 foot long, 9 foot wide, small space, and super well insulated. Solar panels on the roof. It's all made out of SIP panels, yeah, so structurally insulated panels. SIP panels, solar panels all on the roof, capturing loads of energy. Really low carbon project, to be honest with you, when you think about it. I had this mad idea that the interior should be inspired by the arts and crafts movement, because I love the arts and crafts. And then even the guys that built it were like, you want it to be an arts and crafts inspired caravan? That's just bonkers. I went, no, I want like beautiful fabric that will design on the ceiling and some really lovely detail.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, so that's it. That's it. Right? But I've got like, these are stained glass windows. So I have 4 stained glass, 2 there and 2 there. One's been made for me and the other 3 are for my kids. And that's the inside of it. Right? And what I love about that, I mean, I've said to a few young people, I said, look, why don't you start your own caravan club? And they go, what are you talking about? I said, start your own caravan club and build a caravan housing estate, right? And they're like, what are you talking about? What are you going to live in a caravan? I said, look, I'll show you a caravan. Would you want to live in that? So it's a 1-bedroom, really nice caravan. 1 bedroom, so you can even have maids stay over and sleep on the day beds at the front. Right? Now, I spent a bit more on it. I went a bit over the top, as you can imagine. But you could build that at that standard and spec for like 60 grand, 50, 60 grand. If I didn't put on the stained glass windows and everything else, you could probably do it for less. You can go buy a caravan tomorrow for 30 grand if you wanted to. It's actually a really good small-scale home. You're putting on a piece of land that you don't own. Normally you just rent a bit of land, right? So imagine coming up with a new form of tenure where you had a mobile, let's not call them caravans, right? Let's not even call it a mobile home, because mobile homes are horrible. So this is, just imagine that you've built a home which is super ecological, staggeringly green, right? Small, so you haven't used many materials to build it, so that's good. It's good for the environment, you haven't used loads of building materials, that's why I think small projects are really good. It takes less money to heat, you don't need as much heating, you don't need as many electric points, because it's all small, so it's an affordable small home. It just so happens that that home can sit on any piece of land, anywhere, that you don't necessarily have to own, and you just rent the land. So you might rent the land for, I don't know, 20 quid a week, or I don't know, whatever it might be, 10 quid a week. And then, if you change your jobs, and you move from Bristol to Edinburgh, stick it in the back of a lorry and take it with you, and go put another bit of land up there. And so then you don't pay stamp duty, you don't pay moving costs, you don't pay estate agency fees. I've said all along that your kids should start caravan parks and build their house, and you can self-build that.
So are we going to see a series, George Clarke's Caravan Club?
Probably. And that's the other thing to touch on as well, is self-build.
Yes.
You know, we've got the lowest number of self-builders in the world, in the developed world, per capita. Right? So you go to New Zealand, it's virtually a given that you will design and build your own house in New Zealand. Alright, they've got a low population, they've got a lot of land, they've only got 4.5 million people, we've got 60-odd million people on a small island, there's a lot of pressure on land to be able to do it. But it's ironic that nearly all of my programs and all of Kevin's programs all self-built. So we make these like amazing self-built TV programs selling all over the world, but we're hardly doing it. How many young people today would even imagine they've got a chance of buying a plot of land and building a house for themselves?
You talked a great deal of passion about skills in self-build there, but about generally young people and what the future has in store for them. Tell me about Moby, which is something which you've been leading.
Yeah, we've put all these little flyers out, these red flyers you can see, for Moby, and it's the Ministry of Building Innovation Education. It's an educational charity that I set up in 2017 to try and engage with young people. And when I say young, I'm talking kids who are 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, so before college, to become passionate about housing and housing in Britain. and hopefully inspiring those young kids to come into the industry and start to change it and start to push it and have a whole generation of young kids that really want to make a difference with housing in Britain. So we do design challenges with all sorts of organisations, the Mayor of London. When I leave here today, I'm going to Edinburgh, and we've been running a design challenge up in Scotland, and I'm judging that tomorrow. And it's just brilliant seeing the passion and energy of young people when you set these really fun design challenges. So it's outside of their curriculum, there's no pressure, they're not being graded or anything like that. We come and inspire them about what the potential of housing could be on every level, for green technologies, small space design, big buildings, small houses, whatever it might be. We just come in and modular housing, factory built housing, shipping containers being converted, all sorts of stuff, retrofit. We've just done a big retrofit challenge with Mace, the big contractors, big developers. So Moby's basically just a vehicle for young people to become passionate about homes and housing. Fabulous. And I love it. I absolutely love it. Of all the things I've done in my career, setting up Moby is without a shadow of a doubt the best thing. And in some ways I'm hoping that the young people that we're engaging with now will kind of take over Moby and have it as a platform, use it as a platform and build a community around it, which should be really exciting. And it's genuinely making a difference without sounding like arrogant, whatever. We had this lovely girl recently who did a challenge. I say recently, she did about a year and a half ago. She did a challenge, it was the Mayor's Challenge, she was a runner-up, and she just didn't know anything about the built environment or about housing. And when we did this design challenge with her, she went, that's what I want to do. And now she's got a job, she's working for an interior design company, she's doing a course. And that for me is just amazing. She's really taken the germ of what we wanted to sow, if you like, the seed we wanted to sow around with her. And our first ever Moby Design Challenge we ever did, we opened it up, it was in the Midlands. It was actually in Nottingham more than Birmingham, but we opened it up to everyone from like 14 to 22 or something, I think it was, for some reason. So we had people from like BTEC construction courses doing submissions, we had university students doing submissions, we had people doing further education courses doing submissions. But the group that won it was a girls' school from Nottingham, 14 years old. And the reason why they won it is they hadn't been contaminated by the education system. So when everyone else had gone to college at 16 and they go, no, you have to do it like that, you have to do it like that, you have to do it like that. I was seeing lots of schemes that were basically just CAD templates. Yeah. They were just taking templates from CAD software and just rolling them out. And these girls came up with the most beautiful scheme, really innovative. They even came up with a company name called Hexa Homes, because it was about modular housing, and they'd taken the hexagon as a module, so like a beehive, and then designed a house based on hexagons stitched together. The bathrooms were amazing, right? It just made me think of this, right? So you're designing a bathroom inside a hexagon. If you think about when you put a mirror up, you don't put the mirror on the face of the hexagon, do you? Because it's going to just be looking down at the sink. And they came up with all these little clever arms and pivots so that the mirror could come out inside the hexagon and they could get pushed back to save space. It was amazing. So they came up with the company name, came up with a modular housing system, and I said, look, you should start a development company. I said, literally, when you get to 18 years old, start a development company, set up Hexa Homes and start building hexagon modular houses. It would be awesome.
So what's the space for some hexagon housing?